A glimmer of hope. The warmth of the chipped ceramic barely touched the ice in Lily's veins. Another bill, defaced with that crimson warning. Tom's weakening grip on life was underscored by the rasping serenade of his cough. The specialist's verdict hung in the air, unspoken but heavy, swift intervention, or. The television's glow snagged her attention, a puff piece on the local news, sugar-coated and upbeat. Arthur Abernathy, billionaire benefactor, continues his philanthropic streak. A silver-haired man, fragile yet imposing, snipped a ribbon at a revitalized community center. Abernathy. The name left a bitter taste, like something spoiled. He gifted the youth center $500,000, the reporter chirped, cementing his status as a cornerstone of our city. Lily's gaze remained fixed on Abernathy, the spectral image hovering over the damning bills. $500,000. A sum that could resurrect Tom's future countless times over. A dark, audacious seed began to germinate within her. Later, at the diner, even the greasy perfume of frying bacon and tired coffee couldn't penetrate her gloom as she met Sarah. "He's fading, Sarah," she confessed, listlessly pushing around a cold cluster of fries. "The doctor." He didn't spell it out, but the urgency was clear. Sarah's rough hand found Lily's across the worn table. "Don't surrender, Lily. Not yet. Hope is a luxury we can't afford, Sarah. It can't fill a prescription." She recounted the news segment, Abernathy's largesse, the insurmountable cost of saving Tom. Worry etched itself onto Sarah's face as she listened. "Lily, what are you contemplating? Please, don't resort to anything desperate." Lily averted her eyes, studying the scarred surface of the formica. I have an idea brewing." She hesitated, shame prickling her skin. "My grandma, years ago, she worked for the Abernathy family. She always claimed he remembered her fondly, that she held a special place in his memory. It was a flimsy fabrication, woven from a thread of truth. Her grandmother had been one of many faceless cleaning staff. Abernathy wouldn't recall her. And this means..." Sarah pressed, her voice laced with concern. "Maybe. Just maybe, I could pen him a letter. Claim to be her granddaughter. Tell him about Tom's plight. Beg for his help." Sarah gripped Lily's hand harder. "Lily, that's borderline supplication. And what if he discerns the deception? What if he uncovers your lie?" Lily understood the stakes. The potential exposure, the mortification, the repercussions should Abernathy unearth her fraud. Yet, Tom's rattling cough resonated within her, overpowering any rational objection. "I don't care," she rasped. "For Tom, I'd do anything. Absolutely anything." An oppressive quiet descended upon the diner. Sarah regarded her, her gaze a blend of pity and apprehension. "Lily, tread carefully. Some people, even the immensely wealthy, resent being manipulated." That night, sleep remained distant. Abernathy's televised visage danced behind her eyelids. A kindly face, perhaps, yet one hardened by privilege and affluence. She was venturing into treacherous territory, but losing Tom represented an even greater peril. Grabbing a time-worn notepad and a spent pen, she prepared to compose a letter. A carefully crafted deception, cloaked in the language of desperation. A desperate roll of the dice that could either salvage her brother's existence or shatter her own. The pen quivered above the blank expanse. Where to begin this charade? The accidental meeting. The library smelled of dust and forgotten dreams. Lily ran a finger along the spine of a leather-bound biography, its gold lettering faded with age. Abernathy. The name echoed in her head, a mantra of desperation. She'd spent the last 3 days immersed in his world, piecing together his life from newspaper clippings, charity reports, and society pages. Arthur Abernathy, philanthropist, art collector, widower. He was a fortress of wealth and respectability, and she was a sparrow trying to breach its walls. Online, she'd found his routine. Every Tuesday and Thursday, weather permitting, Mr. Abernathy took a stroll through Elmwood Park around 10 in the morning. He favored the rose garden, apparently. Roses. Of all things. Tuesday morning arrived, draped in a sky the color of bruised plums. Lily dressed carefully in a simple blue dress, hoping to appear unassuming, approachable. She clutched a worn leather satchel containing a few library books, a half-eaten apple, and a carefully placed, deliberately loose, bundle of knitting needles and yarn. Stagecraft, she thought wryly, was a talent she never knew she possessed. Elmwood Park buzzed with the quiet symphony of a weekday morning. Nannies gossiped by the sandbox, elderly men played chess under the oak trees, and squirrels darted through the fallen leaves. Lily spotted him near the rose garden. Arthur Abernathy. He was taller than she'd imagined, his silver hair catching the pale sunlight. He walked with a slow, deliberate pace, his gaze fixed on the blooms. This was it. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She took a deep breath and started walking, angling her path to intercept his. As she neared, she feigned a stumble, letting out a small, theatrical gasp. The knitting needles clattered to the ground, the yarn unraveling in a colorful tangle around her feet. "Oh, bother," she muttered, loud enough for him to hear. He stopped, his brow furrowing with concern. "Are you all right, miss?" His voice was surprisingly gentle, a low rumble that resonated with kindness. Lily looked up, feigning embarrassment. "Oh, I'm so sorry. Clumsy me. I didn't see where I was going." She gestured helplessly at the scattered yarn. "Now look at this mess." Abernathy smiled, a crinkling at the corners of his eyes that softened his stern features. "Accidents happen. Allow me." He bent down, his movement surprisingly agile for a man of his age, and began gathering the scattered needles. Lily knelt too, her fingers brushing against his. "Thank you so much," she said, her voice a little breathless, whether from nerves or the exertion of kneeling, she couldn't be sure. "I'm Lily, by the way." "Arthur," he replied, handing her the bundle of needles. "Arthur Abernathy. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Abernathy." She attempted a charming smile. "I was just heading to the bench over there to read. Perhaps you'd care to join me? If I haven't completely ruined your morning, that is." He hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I would enjoy that very much, Lily." Stories and sympathy. The chipped porcelain warmed Lily's hands. The cafe, a haven from the biting wind, smelled of roasted nuts and cinnamon. Across the small, round table, Mr. Abernathy smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "So, Miss Harper, you were saying about your difficulties." Lily took a slow sip of tea, letting the warmth spread through her. She'd rehearsed this part, but the words still felt like lead in her mouth. "It's been hard, sir. Since my mother passed. Just me and my younger brother, Tom." She lowered her gaze, tracing the rim of her cup. "He's not been well." "I am sorry to hear that," Mr. Abernathy murmured, his brow furrowing with concern. "A young boy. What a burden for you." Lily looked up, her eyes glistening. "He tries to help, he really does. But he's weak. And the doctor's bills, they just keep piling up. I work as a seamstress, but it barely covers rent and food, let alone medicine." She added a tremor to her voice, a calculated risk. "Sometimes, I don't know how we'll manage." Mr. Abernathy reached across the table, his hand covering hers. His touch was surprisingly warm and firm. "My dear girl, don't despair. There is always hope. Tell me more about Tom. What ails him?" Lily fabricated a tale of a persistent lung infection, a cough that wouldn't quit, a doctor who spoke of expensive treatments. She peppered the story with details: Tom's love of drawing, his stubborn refusal to stay in bed, the way his laughter filled their small flat when he felt well enough. Each detail was designed to paint a picture of a deserving, innocent child suffering through no fault of his own. Mr. Abernathy listened intently, nodding occasionally, his face etched with sympathy. When she finished, he sighed. "Such a terrible thing for a young boy. And for you, bearing such a weight." He patted her hand. "I admire your strength, Miss Harper. Truly, I do." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, intricately carved wooden bird. "For Tom," he said, placing it in Lily's palm. "Perhaps it will bring him some cheer." Lily's heart twisted. The bird was beautiful, clearly expensive. Guilt gnawed at her, a sharp, unpleasant sensation. She was manipulating this kind old man, taking advantage of his generosity. But Tom needed help. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. He'll love it." Mr. Abernathy smiled. "I'd like to do more, Miss Harper. Perhaps a small contribution to help with the medical expenses." He pulled out his wallet, a worn leather affair. Lily hesitated. This was it. The moment of truth. The point of no return. I couldn't possibly ask that, sir." But her eyes betrayed her desperation. He pressed a few bills into her hand. "Nonsense. Consider it a loan. You can repay me when you are able." The bills felt crisp and new. More money than she'd seen in weeks. She squeezed them tightly. "Thank you, Mr. Abernathy." I don't know what to say." "Say you will have tea with me again next week," he replied, his eyes twinkling. "And tell me how Tom is doing." Lily nodded, forcing a smile. "I will. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart." She left the cafe, the wooden bird clutched in one hand, the money in the other. The wind still howled, but now it felt a little less bitter. She had secured help for Tom. But the victory tasted like ash in her mouth. A brother's hope. Dawn's shrill summons yanked Tom from slumber. He groped for the device, its screen a hazy blur. "Harper," he rasped, throat thick with sleep. "Mr. Harper, Dr. Learman here, from St. Jude's. We have excellent news. You've been approved for the experimental immunotherapy. We can initiate treatment next week if you're available." Tom lurched upright. The flimsy blanket pulled around his waist. "Approved?" "The finances. An anonymous benefactor has generously covered all expenses. We received notification this morning. Congratulations, Mr. Harper. This offers a genuine path forward." He disconnected the call, the slick plastic feeling weighty. A path forward, indeed. He squeezed his eyes shut, a lone tear carving a glistening trail down his unshaven cheek. Lily. He had to share this with Lily. Later, Lily perched beside his bed, a forced smile plastered on her face. But her eyes, unnaturally bright, revealed the strain. "That's fantastic, Tommy. Truly wonderful. I knew you'd get through this." His hand, bony and fragile, sought hers. "I can't fathom how this happened, Lil. The doctor mentioned some anonymous donation." His voice faded, probing her features. Did you have anything to do with this?" She gripped his hand tighter, her tone artificially cheerful. "Don't be absurd. Where would I find that kind of money? Just focus on recuperating, all right." He yearned to trust her, but a shard of suspicion, cold and biting, pierced his elation. Too weak to fight it, he let it linger. A lily's perfume lingered after her departure, an overly sweet aroma in the sterile confines. Outside, the brisk autumnal breeze offered little solace to Lily's troubled thoughts. She automatically navigated the familiar lanes leading to the park, her stomach twisting with unease. Mr. Abernathy awaited her on their usual bench, a thermos and a small, meticulously wrapped gift resting beside him. He offered a sincere, heartwarming smile, deepening her sense of shame. "Lily, my dear. I brought some tea, and a token of my esteem." He indicated the package. She took a seat, avoiding his eyes. "You really shouldn't have, Mr. Abernathy." "Nonsense. Unwrap it. I hope it meets with your approval." Nestled within the tissue paper was a silk scarf, a vibrant emerald shade. Undeniably beautiful, she stroked the smooth material. "It's exquisite." "Green becomes you," he observed, his eyes sparkling. Like a wood nymph. She mustered a wan smile, looping the scarf around her neck. It felt luxurious, yet constricting. So, he continued, pouring tea into delicate cups, how is your brother progressing? He commences treatment next week. He's elated, Mr. Abernathy. So full of hope. That's splendid news, Lily. Truly splendid. I'm so delighted I could play a small part. Her head shot up, eyes wide with disbelief. Play a part? What do you mean, precisely? He chuckled, a soft, resonant sound. Let's just say I made a modest contribution to the hospital. The very least I could do for such a selfless and caring young woman. The world swam. The trees danced. The sickeningly sweet scent of lilies threatened to engulf her. He was the secret benefactor. He was giving Tom life. With money she was accepting. She stammered, her voice barely audible. I don't comprehend. He patted her hand, his touch surprisingly firm. There's no need to understand, my dear. Simply accept it. Embrace the good fortune. Embrace the assistance. Your brother needs you, Lily. And you must be strong for him. She scrutinized him, really seeing him for the first time, and perceived not a predatory elder, but something altogether different. Something gentle. Almost fatherly. Guilt threatened to suffocate her. She longed to confess, to reveal everything, but the words remained locked within. Tom lived. Tom had a fighting chance. And she, Lily Harper, had trapped herself with Fossard's Anne. Echoes of the past. The park bench sighed under Mr. Abernathy's weight as he joined her, the sunlight burnishing the web of lines around his eyes to a rich amber. He carried the scent of aged paper and smouldering tobacco, a familiar fragrance that, paradoxically, amplified Lily's disquiet. So, he rumbled, his voice a deep timbre, you wish to speak of Tom. Lily's throat constricted, the question lodged there, sharp as glass. Yes. I wanted to express my gratitude for all you've done. The words rang false, a flimsy pretense draped in deception. Abernathy offered a mirthless chuckle, dry as autumn leaves. He's a promising lad. Perhaps needs a guiding hand. Reminds me a little of someone from my past. His gaze drifted to children chasing pigeons near the fountain, a softness momentarily stealing over his features. My brother. Samuel. Lily's stomach plummeted. You had a brother. Had. Past tense. Samuel was impulsive. Overflowing with ambitions that exceeded his grasp. He released a sigh, a sound like the whisper of dry reeds in the wind. He became entangled with the wrong sort, chasing those illusions. Primarily gamblers. He incurred debts he couldn't manage. Lily's breath caught. The puzzle pieces clicked together with a sickening certainty. Was this the spectre haunting Tom? Had he stumbled into a similar mire? I attempted to intervene, Abernathy continued, a thread of profound sorrow woven into his tone. I discharged some of his obligations, cautioned him to distance himself from those leeches. But he was headstrong, certain he could recoup his losses. One night, he vanished. Simply disappeared. He squeezed his eyes shut for a fleeting moment, as if shielding himself from a painful vision. His vehicle was discovered abandoned near the docks several weeks afterward. He was never found. The weight of his confession pressed down on Lily like a suffocating blanket. She witnessed the raw grief etched onto his face, the enduring torment of a loss impervious to time's passage. A wave of nausea washed over her. This man, who had extended such kindness towards her brother, had endured a tragedy that mirrored the very predicament she was attempting to manipulate. I'm terribly sorry, she breathed, the words feeling inadequate, almost sacrilegious. Abernathy opened his eyes, a glint of something indecipherable flickering within their depths. That was long ago. Though the past, it has a way of reverberating, doesn't it? His gaze locked onto hers, unwavering and penetrating. Did he suspect her motives? Could he discern the falsehood swirling within her? The carefully constructed facade Lily had erected began to splinter. Her conscience roared in protest. How could she exploit this man, knowing his history? How could she leverage his generosity, his vulnerability, to extricate Tom, especially if Tom was retracing the same disastrous steps as his brother? But the image of Tom, desperate and afraid, seared itself onto her mind. She had to save him. She simply had to. Lily forced herself to maintain eye contact, her heart hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Yes, she managed, her voice betraying a slight tremor. It does. The moment of truth had arrived. Saving Tom, or salvaging her own integrity. And in that instant, she knew which road she would travel, irrespective of the price. She would simply have to shoulder the burden of guilt. The business proposal. The park bench felt cold beneath Lily, a stark contrast to the clammy sweat prickling her skin. Arthur Abernathy, a kindler-faced gentleman with eyes that crinkled at the corners, settled beside her. He smelled faintly of old books and pipe tobacco, a comforting aroma that only amplified Lily's guilt. "So, Miss Harper," he began, his voice a gentle rumble, "you mentioned a business proposal." Lily swallowed, the lump in her throat feeling like a stone. "Yes, Mr. Abernathy. I have an idea." She pulled a crumpled napkin from her purse, smoothing it nervously on her lap. On it were scribbled a few haphazard notes, a pathetic attempt to legitimize the elaborate lie she was about to spin. "It's a mobile library," she stammered. "For retirement homes and assisted living facilities. A curated collection, delivered right to their door." The words tasted like ash in her mouth. Arthur's eyebrows rose slightly. "An interesting concept. There's certainly a need for accessible reading materials among that demographic." He tapped a finger against his chin, considering. "What sort of investment are you seeking?" Lily had rehearsed this part 100 times, yet her voice still wavered. "I was hoping for 20,000. Arthur didn't flinch, but Lily saw a flicker of something in his eyes, surprise, perhaps, or maybe just shrewd assessment. "That's a significant sum for a startup. What are your projected returns?" She launched into a memorized spiel about potential profits, subscriber growth, and the untapped market for literary entertainment among the elderly. It sounded hollow, even to her own ears. "It's more than just books, Mr. Abernathy," she continued, desperation creeping into her tone. "It's about connection, about combating loneliness. It's about bringing joy." She cringed inwardly. This was repulsive. Arthur listened patiently, his gaze unwavering. When she finally trailed off, he said, "That's admirable, Miss Harper. I commend your ambition and your desire to serve the community." He paused, then added, "Have you considered approaching the local council for a grant? They often have funding available for initiatives like this." The suggestion hung in the air, a lifeline Lily couldn't grasp. A grant required transparency, documentation, truth. All things she couldn't afford. "I have," she lied, her voice barely a whisper. "But the process is lengthy. I need the funds quickly to secure a vehicle and initial inventory." Arthur sighed softly. "Business is a risky venture, Miss Harper. Especially in its early stages. But you have a fire in you. I can see it. If you truly believe in this project, you should pursue it. However, make sure you are doing this for the right reasons." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn leather notebook. "Here, write down your business plan. Include your financials. I will take a look." Lily took the notebook, her fingers trembling. Her lie had solidified, the trap sprung. There was no turning back now. The 20,000 would solve her immediate problems, silencing the creditors and staving off disaster. But at what cost? The guilt gnawed at her, a relentless parasite feeding on her conscience. "Thank you, Mr. Abernathy," she managed to say, the words choked with a mixture of gratitude and shame. "I appreciate your time." As she walked away, the weight of her deception pressed down on her, heavier than ever. The park, once a place of refuge, now felt like a prison, its green expanse mocking her with its innocent beauty. She was ensnared in a web of lies, and with each step she took, the strands tightened, threatening to suffocate her completely. The anonymous benefactor. The sinking sun painted long stripes across the polished surface of Mr. Abernathy's desk, highlighting the minuscule dust motes pirouetting in the light. Lily smoothed her presentation folder, the paper suddenly rough beneath her fingertips. Weeks of meticulous preparation had culminated in this pitch, a plea for funding her community program. But faced with Abernathy's affable, yet discerning, gaze, her carefully rehearsed argument seemed fragile, insufficient. So, Abernathy rumbled, his voice a deep resonance that filled the space, "You seek to serve Oak Haven's most vulnerable. A praiseworthy endeavor, Miss Harper, truly." He tented his fingers, his eyes twinkling with an inquisitiveness that eased some of Lily's anxiety. "Yes, sir," she managed, her voice thin. She pressed on, forcing herself to meet his steady regard. "Our belief is that targeted resources and consistent support can empower families to surmount systemic obstacles and build a better future." Abernathy offered a measured nod. "I commend your dedication. I have always considered it my duty to contribute." In fact, a nostalgic smile touched his lips. "A considerable portion of my wealth goes to medical research. Through an anonymous foundation, naturally. I prefer to remain in the shadows. The science deserves the spotlight, not the donor." Lily's pulse quickened. Medical research. Concealed philanthropy. A sudden chill, swiftly followed by a searing understanding, engulfed her. "What specific areas of research, Mr. Abernathy?" she asked, her voice barely steady. He leaned back, his gaze distant. "Oh, a broad spectrum. Groundbreaking therapies, novel treatments, especially those exploring the complexities of neurological ailments. The brain, I believe, holds boundless potential for healing." The room seemed to tilt. Neurological ailments. Tom. The novel therapeutic approach. The silent benefactor who made it possible. It couldn't be. It simply couldn't. Yet the pieces clicked into place with chilling precision. There was a new therapy, she stammered, her throat tight. Targeting a particular disorder. A rare one. Abernathy's eyes sharpened, focusing on her. Indeed. A pioneering method. Certainly costly. But I believe in investing in hope. In the possibility of progress. He paused, scrutinizing her. "Why do you inquire, Miss Harper? Are you acquainted with someone who has benefited from this research?" Lily's vision swam. The weight of her secret, the guilt she had carried for an eternity, threatened to suffocate her. She had come seeking to exploit this man, to use his generosity for her own ends. And now, she was uncovering that he was the very reason her brother lived. "Yes," she breathed, the word catching in her throat. "Yes, I am." Tears welled, blurring Abernathy's gentle features. He is my world." A profound sadness settled over Abernathy's face. He extended a hand across the space and gently covered hers. "Then I am profoundly pleased to have played a minor role in his recovery, Miss Harper. Deeply pleased." The floodgates opened. Tears streamed down Lily's face, a torrent of guilt, gratitude, and overwhelming relief. She had never felt so exposed, so vulnerable. She had arrived bearing a carefully crafted deception, and she would depart bearing a truth etched into her very being. She wasn't certain she warranted such compassion. A confession of truth. Lily pushed the half-eaten scone around her plate, the clotted cream and jam swirling into a sickly pink mess. The floral wallpaper of the tea room seemed to mock her with its cheerful blooms. She had to tell him. Now. "Mr. Abernathy," she began, her voice barely a whisper. She swallowed hard and met his gaze, the warmth in his eyes making her guilt deepen. "I haven't been entirely honest with you." He placed his teacup down gently, the clink of porcelain loud in the sudden silence. "Oh," he inquired, his brow lifting a fraction. She plunged in. "When I first sought you out, it wasn't entirely because I believed in my business proposal." The words felt like shards of glass in her throat. "I'd heard rumors about your generosity. And I was desperate." Lily watched his face carefully, searching for a flicker of anger, disappointment, anything. But his expression remained unreadable. He simply waited, his hands folded neatly on the table. "My brother, Tom, he needed help. Expensive help. Therapy. And I thought if I could just get you interested in my venture, you might be persuaded to invest enough that I could cover the costs. It was selfish, I know. And manipulative. And I am truly, deeply sorry." The last words tumbled out in a rush, tears stinging her eyes. She braced herself for a reprimand, a cutting remark, an end to their acquaintance. Instead, Mr. Abernathy chuckled softly. "Lily, my dear," he said, his voice laced with amusement. "Do you truly believe I've amassed my fortune by being easily deceived? I suspected your motives from the start." Her mouth fell open. You did?" He nodded. "Of course. Your proposal, while promising, was presented with shall we say, an overly enthusiastic flair. And I noticed you subtly steering the conversation towards my philanthropic endeavors." Humiliation washed over her. She had been so transparent. "But," he continued, his tone softening, "I also saw the desperation in your eyes. I saw the love you have for your brother. And I recognized a kindred spirit." Lily frowned, confused. "A kindred spirit?" "Yes. You see, Lily, I've been fortunate in my life. Blessed with opportunities. And I believe that those who are blessed have a responsibility to help those who are less so." He paused, a wistful expression crossing his face. "I lost my own brother many years ago. A tragedy. And ever since, I've tried to honor his memory by supporting others in need." He reached across the table and gently squeezed her hand. "The therapy your brother is receiving, the one that's making such a difference. I funded it." Lily stared at him, speechless. The realization hit her like a physical blow. He knew all along. He had known her deceit, her desperation, and he had helped her anyway. "Why," she finally managed to whisper, tears now streaming freely down her face. "Because, Lily," he said, his eyes twinkling, "sometimes, the greatest investments are not in businesses, but in people. And because, sometimes, a little bit of deception is born from a whole lot of love. A new beginning." The plush velvet of the armchair felt strange beneath Lily. It was too comfortable, too far removed from the cracked vinyl of the bus seat she was accustomed to. Mr. Abernathy sat opposite her, his gaze gentle but unwavering. "So, you want to dedicate your time to the foundation?" Lily straightened her spine, her voice surprisingly steady despite the turmoil churning within her. "Yes, Mr. Abernathy. I want to help. To learn. I know I don't have much experience, but I'm a fast learner and I'm dedicated." She swallowed, the unspoken words, thank you for saving my brother," a lump in her throat. He steepled his fingers. "Dedication is valuable, Miss Harper. But philanthropy requires more than just good intentions. It requires strategy, understanding, and a keen eye for detail." "I understand," she said, perhaps a bit too quickly. She didn't, not really. But she was willing to learn, to soak up every bit of knowledge he was willing to impart. He nodded slowly. "Very well. We have several projects in need of attention. The community garden program, for instance, has been struggling with funding. Perhaps you could research potential grants, analyze their success rates, and present a proposal for revitalizing the program." The task felt daunting, yet strangely exhilarating. It was a chance to prove herself, to earn the kindness that had been so freely given to Tom. Days bled into weeks. Lily threw herself into the work, devouring articles on grant writing, attending community meetings, and meticulously crafting her proposal. Mr. Abernathy, to her surprise, was a patient mentor. He didn't sugarcoat the realities of nonprofit work, but he also encouraged her creativity and offered insightful advice. She discovered a passion she never knew she possessed, a satisfaction in contributing to something larger than herself. Meanwhile, Tom was healing. The treatment, funded anonymously, was working wonders. The shadows that had haunted his eyes began to dissipate, replaced by a glimmer of hope. He started attending physical therapy, his movements initially hesitant, but growing stronger with each session. He even started sketching again, his hand shaky at first, but gradually regaining its skill. One afternoon, as Lily was poring over budget spreadsheets in Mr. Abernathy's study, he cleared his throat. "Miss Harper, I must say, I am impressed with your dedication. Your proposal for the community garden is well researched and thoughtfully presented." A wave of warmth washed over her. "Thank you, Mr. Abernathy." He smiled, a genuine, crinkling around the eyes smile. "Please, call me Arthur. And I believe it's time we celebrated. How about dinner at that new Italian place downtown?" The invitation was unexpected, but Lily found herself accepting without hesitation. Over plates of pasta and glasses of sparkling water, they talked about everything and nothing. About the challenges facing the city, about their favorite books, about the simple joys of a sunny afternoon. It wasn't a romantic dinner, not in the traditional sense. It was the dinner of two people forging a connection, a bond built on mutual respect and a shared desire to make a difference. A week later, Tom, walking unassisted, met Lily for lunch. He was thinner, but his eyes were bright, and his smile was genuine. "I'm back, Lil," he said, squeezing her hand. "I'm really back." Lily's eyes welled up. "I know, Tommy. I know." That evening, Lily found Arthur sitting on the patio. He poured her a glass of iced tea. "He's doing well, isn't he?" he asked, his voice soft. Lily nodded, unable to speak. "I'm glad," he said simply. The guilt she had been carrying began to ease, replaced by a profound sense of gratitude. She still didn't fully understand why he had done it, why he had saved Tom. But she knew, with absolute certainty, that she would spend the rest of her life trying to repay his kindness, not with money, but with her loyalty, her dedication, and her friendship.